the AllThingsXR podcast, where you can get the best ARVR analyzers from the biggest names in the field.
Hi everyone, welcome to the AllThingsXR podcast. I'm Mojtaba. In today's episode, we talk about using AR and VR in mental health with Sarah Hale. Hi Sarah.
Hi, great to chat with you and share more about virtual and augmented reality for stress management.
Thanks very much, Sarah. Welcome to the AllThingsXR podcast. Can you tell us more about yourself and what you do?
So, I am the CEO of Helium. Helium is a virtual and augmented reality product for stress management that's powered by the data from your wearables. And so, we create experiences that are controlled by your brain patterns and your heart rate.
Great. So your title in Helium is Chief Storyteller. That's not the usual title in companies and startups. Can you tell us more about that?
Yes. So ultimately, like with any company, we're not just selling our products, we're selling our stories. And so these are beautiful nature based escapes inside helium. And healing is spelled Healium, where the word is heal. And what we're doing with our product is allowing you to unlock the healing powers that all of us have inside ourselves, but that we might not be aware of them. And so, story is very important to Helium. It's how we learn. It's how we make sense of the world. And so, inside these experiences, they're ultimately stories that are powered by your own brain patterns and heart rate in virtual or augmented reality.
Great. What is your background, Sarah, and how did you get involved in AR and VR?
So, I'm a former television broadcaster and spent 2 decades covering trauma and the world's negativity, rapes, murders, homicides. We went in with the trauma teams in the aftermath of the tsunami in Sri Lanka and Indonesia. And ultimately, that media diet, that digital diet that I was consuming day after day, living by a police scanner, made me sick. And I started to struggle with insomnia and the inability to sleep, which then, once you're not able to sleep, that short circuits your nervous system and leads to panic attacks, burnout. And ultimately, to make a long story short, um, I developed Helium for me, as well as the hundreds of millions of people out there who struggle with anxiety, especially right now. This is the stress Olympics, and not everyone has trained for it. And stress, even before the pandemic, was a $300 billion profit and people killer. And now, we're in the throes of a mental health emergency. And so we are trying to educate people about the portable drugless solutions that we have on our phone or inside goggles that can allow us to have a non-harmful drugless coping mechanism that tricks our brain into thinking we're someplace else, surrounds us with nature, and is positive fiber in our media diet.
Great. So, Sarah, can you tell us more about Helium? When did you found it, and how do you manage it?
So the company is about 5 years old. And we started trying to find a solution for a group of aging veterans who weren't able to physically travel to see their memorials. And so my company would create virtual reality experiences of the memorials in Washington, D.C., the World War II, Vietnam, Korea, women's memorials.
Uh-huh.
And what we noticed in creating these experiences and in the thousands of tours that we've given was that VR appeared to be affecting their physiology. They weren't just watching these experiences, it appeared to us as if it was impacting their bodies. And so, as a former journalist, a naturally curious person, teamed up with a friend of mine who was a neurofeedback specialist And he said, you know what? Let's do some brain maps on these individuals and look at how this, some of this content is impacting their brain patterns. And what we found is it is impacting their brain patterns in very quick and profound ways, significant ways, much as if you took a warm bath or a walk in the park. But for some people, if you're in an area of confined stress, or you're at work, or you're quarantined in your home, whatever, you can't always go out and take a walk in the park. So we developed Helium and started integrating wearables in it several years ago. And people can plug in augmented reality, their smartwatch, their Apple Watch, or in virtual reality, you can use a BrainLink Lite EEG headband. We're adding more and additional wearables to the platform all the time, so keep checking back with us. But essentially, it's a reminder that our thoughts have power to control things, not only in the virtual world, but the real world as well, because you're actually seeing your own brain patterns, your own heart rate displayed on the screen.
Great. So, Sarah, as you mentioned, we are recording this episode in a time when COVID-19 has affected all aspects of our lives, and one of the most dangerous effects of it was in mental health, as people get into quarantines and don't have much social and physical interaction. How do you think AR and VR can help people in this regard?
So, augmented and virtual reality are more emotionally engaging. They're more memorable than regular 2D media or audio. The brain ultimately believes what it sees. And so you're seeing higher engagement rates with augmented and virtual reality than you are, on a regular 2D meditation app. So it's a very unique inflection point for augmented and virtual reality creators to create something important. And not only for the creators, but for those headset manufacturers to recognize that they have the power to promote experiences and applications that can increase the world's well being. And so I'm really excited to see creators, not just like Helium, but all creators in the VR pharmaceuticals, AR pharmaceuticals, digiceuticals, whatever you want to call this, um, building experiences that can help people feel better. And ultimately, you don't just need one in your mental health medicine cabinet, you need several. Just as you might have an aspirin or a Tylenol or something like that. While these experiences are not a replacement for any kind of psychotropic medication, they are an escape, and different escapes work for different people. So you really need to play around with what works for you. Get it in your medicine cabinet, get in your virtual medicine cabinet, get it in your daily habits of downshifting your nervous system either before you go to bed at night, before you get up in the morning, and set the intention for your day. You'll definitely see a difference, and then you'll also have a unique memory in your mind that you can then go back to in a stressful situation, of being in a snow globe and powering that experience with your calm or your focus, of floating up the side of a beautiful waterfall, of changing the colors on a jaguar's fur by
Uh-huh.
calming your mind. Even when you don't have virtual reality goggles, or you don't have a mobile device, you have healing powers inside yourself just with what you think about. And so that's what we're really, creating here, is a training tool that people can visually remember. It's muscle memory, for your mind.
Uh-huh. Yeah, that's great. So right now there are several apps in the meditation area which are big hits. What do you think is the reason that apps like meditation apps, fasting apps, and such are getting more attention than before?
Because this is a mental health emergency.
Mm-hmm.
Calls to mental health hotlines have doubled, and people are looking for drugless, non-harmful coping mechanisms. And so, that's the reason why there's a huge uncertainty, lots of unemployment, financial uncertainty, um, uh, people are working with students in their homes who, their children in their homes who aren't able to go to school. And so the stress level has, just been knocked up immensely, not only for, consumers, regular consumers who are quarantined, but also on people fighting on the front lines of COVID. Helium was recently deployed to, over this last year to nurses to fight compassion fatigue. These are nurses
Great, great.
who are working with, patients, and huge uncertainty for them as well as burnout. And they're using helium in broom closets, any in their car, in the parking lot, any place that they can go to get some virtual peace. Because if you reduce your stress, you increase your working memory, you reduce the likelihood that you're going to make errors.
Exactly.
Perhaps some of these are medical errors. You increase your focus. It's a good thing that you can do for yourselves as mental health hygiene. In addition to washing your hands, we all should be, quote unquote, washing our brains, not
Uh-huh.
literally, but finding some mental health hygiene practices that allow you to quickly quiet your mind or quickly increase your focus.
Exactly, totally agree. Sarah, have you watched Social Dilemma movie? I recently watched it, and it seems we are in a danger we don't know now from social media companies like Facebook and Instagram, and it is affecting our mental health pretty much. Have you watched that movie?
Yes, and we really enjoyed it, and it really educated us and kind of changed how we viewed push notifications.
Mm-hmm.
So we have not put push notifications on our platform yet. And after we watched that movie, it's like, gosh, this helium should really be a tool, like a bicycle that you have on the side, and it's there when you need it, not necessarily pushing people in every single day to use the app. And that's certainly what we're building and will continue to build. And also too, not only that, but privacy. We take, our users' privacy very seriously. We don't sell the data, but when people are sharing, their heart rates, you use heart rate or brain patterns in order to power these experiences. Well, we want to make darn sure that the people who are using our app know that their data isn't being sold in any way. So, The Social Dilemma was a very important film, I think, in the landscape of virtual and augmented reality, and also all of those companies like Helium building digital nutrition products. And we've been talking about your media diet for years, your digital diet, what you are, what you consume in your media. And I'm not saying at all to uh, close your Facebook account. I have Facebook account, Twitter
Mm-hmm.
account,
Yeah.
um, and you need that information, in my opinion, to keep you safe. You need that information to stay connected. Loneliness is also a huge health risk,
Exactly.
like smoking cigarettes. And so, I'm not saying close your media accounts. I'm saying that, if you didn't have social media, you wouldn't know if there was a tornado. You might not know if there's a tornado in your neighborhood if you didn't hear the sirens. Is there a child molester living next door to me? I mean, all the things that social media, the good things about social media that inform us. And so, I am talking about tempered social media, where you use it as the tool that it was designed for, to inform you, to entertain you, but also keep in mind that it can also increase your anxiety levels. And so, pairing your social media with non-harmful drugless coping mechanisms like helium, which can boost that digital nutrition, make you more self-aware of your emotions, and also, inject some of that positive fiber. I really enjoyed the film. It was a eye opener for us, as someone who had already been, talking about some of these topics. I learned something from that film because it put it in a way of why are we so polarized? Well, it's because we've been consuming in our media diet things that we believe already. And so that was a very interesting aspect of the film, and I would love to see a sequel.
Yeah, me too. So Sarah, we mentioned COVID-19 era before. Have you seen more usage of your apps or similar apps in this era, and people wanting to, as you said, take care of their mental health more in this era?
Yes, absolutely. You know, people are recognizing that, here we are, almost the end of the year, and is there an end in sight? Will there be a vaccine? All of the huge uncertainty that's going on in the world. And so we've seen demand for our product increase, usage of our product increase, and we've also developed new tools. Specifically for the pandemic. So with
Great.
Helium, you don't have to have virtual reality goggles. You can deploy augmented reality just on your mobile device. And so this is really popular in work from home situations. And if you download our app, and we're on iOS or Android, and it's spelled Helium, Healium, just search it, Helium AR, you can open up a magic portal in your living room. You can walk through it, or if you don't have mobility, you can teleport through it. And then you're inside some of these different virtual kingdoms. So we've really brought the best of our virtual reality products into an augmented reality app that reduces the barrier to entry for users. So they're no longer, required to have virtual reality goggles. Obviously, virtual reality is the most therapeutic way to use Helium and has the most impact, from an immersive level. But even in augmented reality, it is a training tool and an engaging tool because these assets are coming into your own room. And you're not viewing it through the filter of a fixed rectangle. It's as if that flower or that butterfly is actually flying around your room.
Yeah. We will surely put the links on the description of the podcast. So, Sarah, what are the other use cases of AR and VR in mental health care?
So we're involved in a dozen different trials around the world because anxiety is a layer in 60% of all illness and disease, six of the leading causes of death. You reduce anxiety, you can potentially improve outcomes for a variety of different use cases. So, the future of virtual and augmented reality and mixed reality in mental health is huge because again, it's tricking the brain into thinking that it's someplace else.
Yeah, as you said, we are used to take care of, for example, our oral health and oral hygienes when we brush our teeth, but we don't usually pay attention to our mental health, and I think that's something that we should care more about. Sarah, another question: are there any stats on how much AR and VR can help us with our mental health?
Yes. So we've done a number of studies in three peer-reviewed journals. Another study about helium will be published later this year on augmented realities,
Uh huh.
use cases for engagement. But they've shown in a nutshell that helium reduces significantly self-report anxiety in as little as 4 minutes. And you can see that shift on a brain map looking at the fast activity in the brain immediately before and immediately after. So there are more than 900 therapeutic use cases of virtual and augmented reality out there. So it's really not a question of is VR a therapeutic? It's what kind is it? What are you targeting for the experience, and that kind of thing. But it's very common. There's a great book that's out right now by Brennan Spiegel about virtual reality. It's on Amazon, I think, and some other places, and they mention helium in that book too. But
Yeah.
it's a great read for people to pick up and to learn about all of the very exciting use cases. Helium obviously is focused on stress management, and also the interaction of stress management with biometric data from wearables that you would already have in your home. You don't have to have a proprietary sensor or anything like that to use Helium. Ultimately, any wearable you'll be able to plug in and use. But yes, very very exciting time for VR and AR because it is transportive. And in a time where we aren't able to physically travel, bringing the world to us is not only therapeutic, but it's valuable to people.
Great. So, Sarah, have you seen any connection between the mental health and the physical health as you are experimenting with different kinds of experiences in VR?
So the mind and body are absolutely connected. In fact, in the early days of our program, that was one of the reasons why we decided to research helium's use case further, is we noticed the body softening
Mm-hmm.
and a really unique, almost like people would turn into a rag doll, and their bodies would soften, and they would take off the headset, they would take a deep cleansing breath, and they would say, "I like how I felt. Can I watch that again?" And, so that's why we started to be curious. But yes, what's happening in the mind absolutely impacts the body. And vice versa. That's why we as humans, our body feels that way when we feel like there's lions or dinosaurs chasing us. That's the whole core mentality behind the stress response. And so, what we're doing with Helium is trying to, harness the user's own internal healing powers to try to, heal themselves. As a reminder that their thoughts do have power, they do have agency over their virtual world and control of their virtual world and the real world as well.
Great. So, sir, the combination of AI, big data, and data mining can do wonders in health discoveries. A company like Apple, for example, may know more about your health than your doctor from your Apple Watch. What do you think about that? Have you tried it with your own products?
So we're just at the tip of the iceberg as it relates to that. We were very highly concerned about data protection.
Mm-hmm.
So we waited, more than a full year in order to ensure that we had those data privacy policy protections in place before we allowed our users to track their progress over time. And now you do have the ability to track your progress, your heart rate, your brain patterns. You get a calm score, a focus score, a helium score, which is like stress resilience, and then also you can take a deeper dive into your brain patterns. Obviously, it's not diagnostic in any way. It's a self-awareness tool, an educational tool that can allow you to become more self-aware of what different brain patterns do. Um, but in the future, the ability to know more about yourself, that is a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
It's great that you have the ability to know more about yourself, but we better make darn sure inside our products that we are doing everything in our power to keep our users' data safe, and protected. And so, you know, that's one of the things that we're laser focused on, and one of the reasons why we waited to develop a data dashboard. People were asking for it all the time, but yet we needed more clarity, and that clarity is changing all the time. Matter of fact, just with the election, some additional privacy protection laws were passed, and so now this week, that's what we're doing. It is making sure that our products are up to speed, and it's going to be a moving target. And two, it's going to be a moving target for everyone, large companies and small companies alike. So it's important as an industry of virtual augmented reality, digital therapeutics, digiceuticals, that we share information, and that we collectively, uh, you know, share about,
Uh-huh.
you know, some of the tools that are out there to keep our users' data safe, because the mindsets on what you do with your users' data in light of recent events, is only going to become more important with 250 million wearables collecting data.
Yeah.
And it's no longer being tracked on a flat data dashboard. With products like Helium, you have the ability to interact with it, tell a story with it, see how it responds, and view it as personified in the form of a virtual or augmented reality jaguar or a flower or a firefly.
Great. So, sir, what are the parameters? What are the stats that you feel are important and you should track and give feedback to users?
I think how we measure success is in a variety of ways. So we use mood inventories and also state trait anxiety surveys, surveys for general anxiety disorder in research projects and in trials. And so that's one indication how we measure success. Also looking at brain maps, the experiences in Helium, have been tested to see how is this particular experience impacting a brain pattern or a heart rate. And you can see that listed in some of our peer-reviewed journals. But those kind of metrics are important to us. Yes, usage is important, but also episodic usage is also very important,
Uh huh.
especially in light of the social dilemma and watching that
Yeah.
documentary, which I think should have made every digital therapeutic or meditation app company give themselves pause of, okay, how are you triggering your users to come into the app. And so I don't know if that answered your question or not, but
Yeah.
that's the
Sure.
best answer I have.
Yeah. Yeah. Sure. Sure. So, Sarah, as far as I know, Helium right now is a solo experience. Have you also thought about multi-user experiences?
Yes. Yeah, and that's actually in progress in R&D as we speak.
So, if it's not confidential, can you tell us more about that? Because I'm asking this because in the time of COVID-19, one of the most important things that we've lost is our social interactions and such.
Yeah, that is so true. And loneliness, as we mentioned, can be just as bad as smoking cigarettes. And I think the more ways that we can collectively unite together in some positive media experiences, some positive fiber for your digital nutrition, the better. I can't really talk about the
Uh huh.
platform yet. And some of these tools are in stealth, even with some of the companies themselves. So if you are someone who's building one of those multi-user platforms, we'd love a conversation with you to talk about how Helium can be plugged into your existing platform as well. And our email address is hello@tryhelium.com. And a reminder that healing is spelled Healium. So hello@tryhelium.com.
Great, great. So, sir, one of the things that you mentioned, and I'm also a bit skeptical about, is the role of AR in mental health care right now. I can relate to VR completely because it has gotten very immersive and accessible in recent years. But in AR, we are not at that stage yet. Have you also received the same feedback and benefits in AR mode?
Not the same benefits, but I can tell you that an article in a peer-reviewed journal will be published later this year on Helium's augmented reality experience, looking at engagement rates. And so, the ability in augmented reality compared to, 2D or anything else, there is a significant difference. And when it comes to getting people to, as Akili Labs would say, they have a great line of play your medicine.
Uh,
But when it comes to getting people to play their medicine, engagement is huge. And so if you're able to show that augmented reality is more engaging than a 2D piece of media, well, then that's an additional feather, and an additional use case. And that's one of the reasons why we create augmented reality in addition to virtual reality. AR is obviously not as immersive. However, it is more engaging than
Uh-huh.
some of the other um, experiences that are out there, and it also has a lower barrier to entry because it's just your mobile device.
Exactly. Totally agree. So Apple is becoming more and more of a healthcare company. Do you think that Apple and other big companies may come into the market of AR and VR healthcare as the rumors of Apple glasses are heating up in recent months?
I don't know. I mean, we're all, waiting and wondering to see, Nreal's product is coming out.
Yeah.
Their augmented reality glasses, and the rumored Apple Glass. I would love a crystal ball to know, what would happen with that. It'll remain to be seen. I mean, it seems like they are moving more towards, fitness and health and
Mm-hmm.
well-being, and it will remain to be seen whether or not they are the actual pharmacy, and they sell all of these individual, quote unquote drugs,
Huh.
or if they, partner with existing pharmacies
Mm-hmm.
in order to sell those products. Um, Not sure. But what I am sure about is the value of someone stepping up and creating these medicine cabinets, because you have all of these very individual, powerful tools and a lot of friction when it comes to being able to find them. I mean, just think about, the Quest,
Yeah.
and, how it's difficult, if you want to get a drug, quote unquote, on your Quest, navigating side quests, because some of these, because they do have wearable integrations, aren't allowed on the native Quest stores. So there is some friction in there that I think the Oculus and maybe in the future, if Apple comes out with Apple Glass, need to solve for, because when you have the rise of 5G, with the rise of wearables, with the rise of spatial computing, the ability to not get your medicine, your digital medicine, in a timely manner, it's a problem.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally agree. So, sir, have you thought about integration with other wearables, for example, Apple Watch and etc., and in the future, probably Apple glasses?
So Helium is already compatible with Apple Watch. You can harness the power of your own heart rate to hatch fireflies,
Hmm.
to um,
Interesting.
grow, make fireflies go around the room. You can change the colors on a jaguar's coat. There are a bunch of half a dozen different experiences on our app, which, by the way, you can toggle between AR or VR. And we were very careful to be ambidextrous in both places, because we see, the hardware manufacturers being ambidextrous.
Mm-hmm.
So, for instance, on your Quest, you can tap the side of your Quest and you get a pass through camera. You see the beginnings of that being able to toggle between AR and VR, and so we wanted to be positioned in that space. So you can choose AR or click on the VR tab and then deploy these experiences to the headset.
Mm-hmm. Great. So, Sarah, do you see these kinds of experiences being used in physical spaces and, for example, in the clubs or in the places like, for example, gyms for mental health and etc.?
Yeah, they're already in use in gyms.
Mm-hmm.
Mental fitness is a thing we call Helium. It's mental fitness for a new reality in
Uh-huh.
extended realities. And just as you exercise your body, you also need to exercise your brain. And so, you know, uh, that's what Helium is. It's um, uh, not only stress management, but you can use it to lean back and escape, or you can use it to lean forward and train.
Great. So, Sarah, as of our last question, how do you envision the future of AR and VR in healthcare?
So I think, and as Dr. Brennan Spiegel, he might have said this in his book, but he says it a lot that a virtual reality headset is going to be just as common as a stethoscope, around a healthcare care worker's neck. These are tools that people need and use. It's not just for gaming, it's their stress management, it is their physical therapy, it is enabling them to, in a drugless way, get some relief from a variety of different conditions. And so I think that will only accelerate in the future because in addition to the rise of wearables and 5G and spatial computing environments, you also have the rise of the opioid epidemic.
Uh-huh.
And people are looking for drugless solutions. So I know you'll see it accelerate in the future, along with the acceleration of research that shows that virtual reality is therapeutic and augmented reality can be therapeutic as well and more engaging than some of the traditional ways that we're using right now.
So, Sarah, thanks very much for joining the All Things XR podcast. It was a pleasure.
It's a pleasure to you too. I love all the individuals you have on your program. I appreciate your time. And to your listeners, please go to tryhelium.com. We would love to hear what you're working on and to be a resource for you in the future to discover that your thoughts have power.
Great. Thanks very much, Sarah.